the Leafs have found a hidden gem, and they have made a very interesting signing that has many Leafs fans pumped up about the move. So to break down exactly who the player is, what his impact could be, and why this hidden gem could be crucial for the Leafs for many years to come. So I'll break all it down in this episode. But before we do, if you're a part of the percentage that aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that button. It would mean the world to Darius and myself as we're on the road now to 12,000 subscribers. And this is the place to be for the latest Leafs news. But Darius, this is a very exciting video to talk about, and we've been talking about Easton Cowan a lot, Fraser Minton to a degree, and obviously the Leafs hired a new director of scouting, and now they made a very interesting signing surrounding a player that could be a hidden gem for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this player, you can see it right here, he was a KHL guy last season, Nikita Grebyonkin. He signed a 3-year entry-level deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs, which starts immediately during the upcoming season. And we're going to dive into all of his stats, everything about this player if you're unfamiliar with him. But Darius, this guy, if you do some research, is super exciting and one that could be a hidden gem for the Toronto Maple Leafs for not only, just years down the line.
Hopefully years down the line, right? He looks very good. And I've seen the comments, a lot of people talking about it. You got to talk about this guy. You have to talk about this guy because he can make the team next year. And as I was doing some research, looking at his stats and watching some highlights, I think there's a really good chance this guy does make the team next year, maybe in a bottom 6 role, right, to start. But I think depending how things shape up and the fact that the Leafs have, very little proven left wingers at the NHL level, he could make a little bit of an impact. This is a guy, I wouldn't really classify him as a rookie anymore. He's 21 years old, right? But kind of, I'm not going to say he lit the KHL on fire, but he had a very respectable season last season in the KHL for somebody his age. KHL is, a professional league, right? He's not playing junior or anything like that. So obviously you have to know what you're doing and play at a high level. So he was playing at a very high level in the KHL, playing well, and his team won the championship last year. He won the KHL championship. And he was putting in good work in the playoffs too. Obviously didn't put up too many points, but obviously it's hard to score in the playoffs. And he had a series winning goal in overtime, right? So had a pretty impressive season. If you take a look at his stats, we're going to look at everything here in this video, but I was impressed by this player. I think he's a pretty smooth skater too. He has a shot, right? Like he can score. So I'm excited for what could happen with this player in the next couple of years. And the fact that he's just signed to an entry-level deal is great too, because if he works out and, he's a nice little scoring winger for you there, then, it's cost effective as well for the next couple of years.
Yeah, you mentioned how weak the Leafs are in the left wing, even just the wing departments. We're discussing how they need to make a move after Bertuzzi left. And is this the move that many Leafs fans thought was going to put them over the top and will put them over the top? No, I don't think that's necessarily what we're saying, but you mentioned it. So he had 41 points, in case you're unfamiliar, in 67 games in the KHL as a 21-year-old in the cup-winning team. Quillen had 84 points in 80 games last 2 seasons. So there's some interesting comparisons going on here. And the big thing here, Darius, I want to go over this a little bit. Obviously, 41 points in 67 games, and I'm not sure how many of you guys actually were able to watch or have seen a lot of his highlights, but he seems like a guy who can, like you mentioned, make the NHL team, especially on a team like the Leafs that's lacking a little bit of that depth in a bottom 6 spot. And again, an entry-level contract that starts next year. I think that depending how he plays, maybe in the preseason, just throughout camp, he can make a real push for the Toronto Maple Leafs roster. Now, whose spot he takes, I'm curious to see what you think, is still up in the air. Obviously, there's technically some spots open depending on what they do, and they still obviously have to do some shifting. Who knows what happens with guys like David Kemp. Obviously, Tyler Bertuzzi's gone. We have Max Domi back, and Nick Robertson especially. That's the big one. If he gets traded, then that's another spot that opens up. That's still obviously those dominoes haven't fallen yet, but this is a guy that could actually make an impact very, very soon, and much sooner than I think a lot of Leafs fans may think.
Yeah, and to watch this, preseason, it's going to be very interesting because he has to get used to the North American game too, right? I think, the KHL and the NHL are 2 very different games, especially when it comes to the playoffs. But, he's a big guy, right? 6'2", almost 200 pounds. So he's going to be fine. He's 21 years old already. He's filled out, right? There's no real growth for him. It's not like he's coming up from the OHL or something like that, right? Or college hockey. I think he's ready to play in the NHL, but he just has to figure it out because we saw it with guys like Mikheyev and some other guys who come from Russia sometimes where they have a little bit of, there's a little period of time to start the season where they're kind of figuring it out. They're kind of lost, right? And even Slavkovsky, I'll use as an example in Montreal, same type of thing where it's taken him some time to figure it out. So, I'm going to give him a grace period to kind of, get over that hump. But I think once he does, if he's able to do that, he can kind of slot in anywhere in the lineup. I think he's a pretty dynamic player, right? We'll see. I'm not saying he's going to play with Austin Matthews right away or anything like that, but I think it's going to be very interesting to to watch how he goes through training camp and how they use him there and how they're planning to use him in the regular season. Because I think he has a very good chance at making this team, honestly. So he's going to be another fun player to watch and a hidden gem, honestly. Like, I think he's going to be really good once he figures it out. But I'm not exactly sure whose spot he's going to take yet, because I still think there's a lot to see out of Matthew Nyes. You know, he should take a step. Bobby McMahon had a really good second half of the season. Is Nick Robertson even going to be on the team, right? So there's a lot of question marks still, but as we get closer to training camp, I think we'll have an idea where he'll slot in. And I think he can surprise. I think he's going to play maybe a little bit higher up in the lineup than some people are thinking.
Yeah, and obviously there's too many dominoes that still need to fall to directly make a prediction on what he's going to be regarding where in the Leafs lineup he stands. But you can see here some quick notes from Kyle Cushman. He was undrafted in 2021, taken 2022 in the draft then a couple years ago in the 5th round, really broke out last year and ranked 3rd in the U21 KHL scoring this season. So this is a guy who has a great shot. He has great you can skate very well as well. And you mentioned it. He's for a 21-year-old. He's really starting to fill out. And many Leafs fans are kind of proclaiming that they can see Nikita really stepping into the Toronto Maple Leafs at the start of the year. Is that a stretch? It's maybe a stretch, but I think that at this point, it makes a ton of sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you can see here, again, undrafted, taken in the 5th round. So just some notes on him. But the ranked 3rd, Darius, in the U21 KHL scoring this season. Like, the Leafs are really taking some good shots at these young players and just seeing what they can do, because we're seeing a lot of the youth movement a little bit. Matthew Nyes really showed a lot of his skill last season during the playoffs and really has kind of solidified himself on the team. You have Easton Cowan who's fighting for a spot. You have Fraser Minton who's fighting for a spot. You have this guy now who's fighting for a spot. Even Abrazizi is a prospect, not fighting for a spot yet, but someone to keep an eye out going forward. So, like, there's a lot of youth movement coming in for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this is a guy that I think is super exciting. But at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel regarding the next generation of Leafs players to pair with Austin Matthews and William Nylander for the next decade or so.
And like you just said, right, I think the Leafs are starting to create something that's should be very exciting for fans, where, you know, there isn't a definitive first line left wing in my eyes right now, right? And there's going to be a lot of young guys fighting for those spots. So there's going to be, you know, healthy competition going on, which forces every single player to play better. And I think that's a good thing. And I think the Leafs have kind of cultivated that a little bit, which is a good thing, right? So you're going to have, like you said, Grebyonkin in the mix. You're going to have Nyes in the mix. You're going to have Bobby McMahon. Nick Robertson has not been traded yet, right? He's in the mix. So they're all going to be fighting for those spots, which is going to create, an environment where they're all going to play well, or they're going to try to play their best. So it's going to be fun. And like I said, I'm excited for this guy. He was a rookie of the year in the KHL, right? He made the All-Star team. He won the championship. He was on a championship winning team this past season. So lots to like about this player coming over to the NHL. It looks like he's going to be coming to the NHL at least, and should make the Leafs, you know, barring anything crazy or, you know, a bad training camp, anything like that. So should be really exciting. And like I said, it seems like he's filled out. He's a big guy, right? He can play, seems like a smooth skater. He has a shot. So lots to like from this player. And I'm excited for training camp.
Yeah, let us know what your thoughts are on that. There's a lot of exciting things around the Leafs right now, even though they have to solidify the rest of their team a little bit. But thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comments. Do you think he's going to make the NHL? Yes or no? See you soon.